that would just take too much. That
You're
would
good. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would just take too much time. I will say this on Gaza and on Israel and what's happening in the Middle East. Obviously, the atrocities in Gaza are horrific. What happened on October 7th was horrific. What's happened since October 7th has been horrific, right? I think no one can deny that. Over the past 2 years, 3 years, since the October 7th attacks, I've consistently reported on what's happened on the ground in Gaza when I can. I mean, it's a very difficult place to report on because I personally don't know what's often accurate and what isn't. And so
Mhm.
I often defer to great journalists who are trying to get into Gaza, even though the Israeli government doesn't allow them to, who are on the ground in Gaza and get information from them and try to share their information as much as I can. But over the past many months. I mean, every day, I would say now, Gaza is a feature topic on my Substack, which is my main platform. I talk about the atrocities in Gaza. I talk about the latest. I think the story that I covered most recently was the fact that there were significant floods in Gaza that many people weren't talking about, and a lot of kids in these camps that were these makeshift camps because their homes were bombed. Some of them even died because of the
Mhm.
flooding. And so I've covered it regularly. I will continue to cover it regularly, but I think I will say this from kind of more broader lens. I really do encourage a lot of folks watching this and on the internet to diversify their news stories. I'm one person. I could only get you so much information. Other people will get you different information that I can't cover because I simply don't have the bandwidth to do. One day, hopefully, I will, but right now I don't have that. And so diversify your sources, get news from other people. But I've regularly said and will continue to say that what has happened in Gaza has been atrocious, has been horrific, and will continue to talk and report on it as often as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The other thing is everybody thinks Aaron Parnas is his father. I mean, it just drives me freaking batshit crazy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I see that too. Ththese little sniper comments that come in there. They're just. I guess for some reason they think you're your father, and you're not. But I wanted to give you just a minute or two just to address that real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my name's Aaron. My name's not Lev. So let's put that out of the way.
Yeah.
Listen, I think that there's a real common problem in American culture, and not just in American culture, around the world, where children are blamed for the sins of their parents, right? I wasn't the one who got arrested. I wasn't the one connected to Trump. I wasn't the one in any of these rooms. That wasn't me. That was my father. And you can't choose your parents. I love my dad. I'm not my dad. And so try to chart my own course. I think it is very difficult, and it has been over the past many years for me to be able to publicly label myself not as Lev's son, but rather as Aaron, because from the moment he was arrested, the media quickly labeled me as his son rather than me on my own. And even though I was at the time about to be a lawyer and try to chart my own course in the legal industry, I couldn't do it. So I had to quickly try to redefine myself as myself rather than his son. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Like I don't have any connection to all of that. His the criminal charges or any of that. And it's very unfortunate and it really impacted me and my family for a long time.
Yeah, understood, man. I wanted to give you that opportunity just to talk about that. All right, I gotta know this, man. What is a day for Aaron Parnas like? I mean, it's like how many hours of sleep do you get? I mean, because you are everywhere, and it's really appreciative by me and
Yeah.
a lot of people. What is like your day like?
I think it depends on the day. I mean, I will say consistently every morning I wake up around 7:30 and I'm in bed by 11. And so I try to get my 8 hours of sleep because if I don't, I will be a zombie the next day, no
Yeah,
matter what. But
yeah.
between 7 and 11, I'm online. I'm constantly working. So I would say I'm working 16-hour days, sleeping 8-hour nights, 16-hour days every single day, Monday through Sunday. Wears on people. Wears on some people. I throughout the day, and I think a lot of people have misconceptions about how I source my news, and this could kind of help clear that up as well. I have multiple screens in my home, like 4 or 5 screens, right? And
Oh
each
wow.
screen, yeah, it's a bit like my brain is a bit of like I'm very hyper functioning in the sense that like I have ADHD, I can't sit still, I can't focus on one thing for more than a few minutes at a time. And so each screen has a different kind of ticker of sorts. One screen is C-SPAN running 24/7, where I'm watching live what's happening on the ground in the House or in the Senate or on Capitol Hill or in the White House if there's a press conference, for example. And as I'm watching it, I'm reporting on it. I'm not waiting for the New York Times to tell me what Trump just said that I'm watching. I'm just doing it myself. So that's one. The second screen is I have the notifications on for every member of Congress, every world leader on
Oh,
Twitter and
wow.
Truth Social, right? So when a bill is introduced, when they say something, I'm constantly monitoring it. I get tens of thousands of notifications a day. But the moment that they put something out, I get it right when every other journalist gets it. And so that's number two. And number three is my email inbox, which is flooded with tips from folks in the federal government and nonprofits,
Mm.
campaigns who are sending me information regularly that I'm honestly always trying to go through and vet. And then also the email inbox is also flooded with press releases, right? I'm signed up to every press release for
Oh,
every
yeah.
Congress, every government agency, whatever. So every time they release something, it goes to my inbox, and that's almost always another story option. So those are like three screens. Then the fourth screen is me just scrolling aimlessly. And typically, I rely on, I like to read a lot of like investigative journalism work that I don't ever pretend to do. So like I read ProPublica every day. I read certain reports from Wired every day because I think they do really good work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot. They got a lot going on, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. All right, Epstein files. Oh my God, what a freaking marathon this has been. And also, the other thing about you is like if you think you're prepared for an Aaron Parnas interview, you better look like the last 2 seconds before you start because the news cycle is just nuts and it's like you're updating constantly. Let's just touch on the Epstein files. I guess the first question I have is ultimately at some point, at some time, do you think we will actually get people held accountable for this? Do you think some of these names that they're desperately trying to cover up,
Yeah.
at some point, will it come out? Will we get some kind of justification for the victims?
I think that's a good question. I mean, your guess is as good as mine on that front. I mean, I think so. There is some accountability already, right? I mean, a lot of the wealthy and powerful people in the files are being held accountable. They're not the ones that the most people on social media want, but
Hmm.
there is accountability. There's accountability in Europe. There's accountability here in the States in the sense of many people have lost their jobs related to the connection of Epstein. I think a lot of people are like, well, losing a job isn't enough. You want arrests as well. Sure, but if someone just had for example, Peter Attia, right? He was the former CBS News contributor, former like this health guru who had a very close friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, said some like very obnoxious and really atrocious comments and emails about women, misogynistic comments, but there's no evidence that he did anything criminal. Being a misogynist is not a criminal act. And so he lost his job. That to me is accountability. There's no evidence to indict him for child sex trafficking because there's no evidence that he was involved in that. Some
Mhm.
people say him losing his job isn't enough. I say, well, what else do you want when there's no evidence that he's engaging in criminal activity? So that's one part of it. The second part of it is a lot of people want President Trump to be held accountable criminally, right? I think I share those sentiments if if we get all the files and there's evidence that he engaged in criminal activity. I think that will we ever get that though? I don't know. I don't think so because for every President Trump, there's also Democrats in the files as well. That
Right.
so both parties don't have an impetus to kind of fight for accountability in a way, and that's why it's been 20 plus years, and we're just seeing some of the files, not all of them.
What about for some of the folks down the ladder a little bit? Like for example, Pam Bondi, who's just got subpoenaed, as we know.
Yeah,
I guess so. What's the difference between getting her back in under oath when we know what she does? She brings her little burn book and she just
yeah.
doesn't answer nothing, just attacks the questioner. So tell us what the difference, because you're a lawyer and you could definitely your knowledge would be very helpful. What is the difference and like why bring her back in if she's probably going to try the same thing?
Well, so I actually think this is a very interesting development for a couple of reasons. Number one, right before we hopped on this interview, Congressman Robert Garcia publicly tweeted that after the subpoena to Pam Bondi was issued, the DOJ said it's releasing more files, right? So immediately you're
Oh,
seeing
okay.
some things happening. There's more pressure. This is different from the other hearing where she had her burn book. The other hearing was general oversight of judiciary from the House Judiciary Committee. This is a specific subpoena related to the Epstein release. And these oversight committee members, the Republicans that voted for it, they're not going to go with even if Pam Bondi comes there with her burn book and starts attacking them like she did last time, the next step is they're going to hold her in contempt. That is what's going to happen. And you have five Republican votes right there who willing to do that already because they were willing to subpoena the attorney general.
Hmm.
Those five votes are enough on the House floor to pass contempt resolutions. They only need, I think, two or three. So they already have the votes. And that doesn't include Thomas Massey, so that's a sixth vote. So there is, I really do see Pam Bondi coming there and giving kind of some more legitimate answers because the pressure is a little different this time around.
Okay, so that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Now, this latest news, in fact, I got it from your reporting. You're like the first person I jump to every day.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, you earned it, man. The latest, what you're reporting is Trump's considering maybe getting rid of Kristi Noem.
Yeah.
How much teeth do you think that has, or that you think that just could be smoke blowing, or do you think there's some real teeth behind this?
No, I think there's real teeth behind it. I mean, I've thought that there was real teeth behind this one for a long time. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Based on what I understand, he wants, at least in the past few months, he had been floating giving Glenn Youngkin that job.
Hmm.
Right. And you can't give Glenn Youngkin the job immediately because he was just governor of Virginia. He needs a few months off.
Sure.
We're now entering the territory where I could totally see him replacing Noam with someone like Glenn Youngkin because it's been 5, 6 months since Youngkin left, or actually even it's only been 2 months, I guess, since Glenn Youngkin left office. But we're getting to the point where you could see a replacement like that happen. I will say this though, in conventional times, you're not going to have a cabinet shakeup close to the election. So I would say if it doesn't happen by the summer, it probably won't happen until after November's elections, and then you'll see a major shakeup of like more than just Christie Nome. But Trump is anything but conventional, so it's
Yeah.
anyone's guess.
Yeah. And you just mentioned the midterm. That's a great segue. Um, we just saw what happened in Texas.
Yeah,
There is a trend there. There's in fact, there was a guy in Arkansas that flipped the seat.
sure.
Yeah, that was great. Now, of course, the Attorney General of Texas pulled that little thing he pulled there in Dallas. There's a huge concern in the country for especially Democrats about midterms and then Republicans, messing around with that. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, there's a huge level of stress with the voters. Um, and of course elected officials on the left that the midterms is make or break in a lot of people's minds here. We don't if the left doesn't win these midterms and get reel this in a little bit, it's just it's just going to be crazier. So what are your thoughts? Do you have any hope? I guess what I'm asking, can you share some hope with the people out there about these midterm elections, and do you think we'll get this done without the
Well,
colossal failure?
well, I'll say this: I don't endorse any candidates. I don't want to.
Oh, I
Like
know.
my entire platform is I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, or
Of
when
course,
when you
no.
say we, like I'm not going to say like, oh, the Democrats should win or whatever. I'm not going to say any of that. I'm just going to tell
Yeah.
you the facts, and you can make your
Yeah,
informed
yeah,
decisions based on
yeah.
that.
I guess I'll say I'm one of the we's, but yeah, I get you. I get you.
Sure, but what I will say in terms of the election is that here are the facts. The facts are that the Democratic Party, for the first time in a long time, is somehow less unpopular than the Republican Party. We're not talking about popularity in terms of like, it's funny. Right after the 2024 election, the Democratic Party's popularity rating was so bad. I mean, awful, like in the teens or in the mid 20s. People did not like the Democratic Party brand after the November election.
Hmm.
Since then, people have started hating the Republican brand more. So it's not like Democrats are doing anything good. It's that Republicans are just shitting the bed worse than the Democrats are.
Yeah.
And we're getting to a point where I think a lot of Americans are yearning for a check on this administration. They're seeing that Congress isn't a viable check right now, hasn't been since this president took power over a year ago. And so I think they're willing to say, okay, we gave him the White House. Let's give the other party the power in Congress. And if I were a betting man and I were predicting today what would happen, I think the Democrats will overwhelmingly win the House of Representatives. I don't think it'll be even a close. Um, I think you'll have a potentially a 20 to 30 seat majority in the House of Representatives. I don't think it'll be a close situation just because of how bad polling is for Republicans. And then as far as the Senate goes, that's anyone's guess. I think it's a 50-50 split right now with Republicans still having the majority just because it's Vice President Vance would break the tie. But A 50-50 split right then and there, in my opinion, actually is a Democratic majority because one of those 50 votes on the Republican side, Rand Paul, isn't really a reliable Republican vote on a lot of issues.
Hmm. What about the cheating part? I mean, how concerned are you that,
Cheating. I mean,
yeah, like whether we're going to have midterms that are actually fair?
well, I think when you say cheating, what I would say is the concerning part about the midterms and just any election is voter suppression and the restriction of people's access to the ballot box.
Hmm.
Right? I think we saw that in Dallas County, Texas, in the
Right,
Texas primary, where Ken Paxton and Republicans were kind of playing games and making it more difficult for specifically black voters, black and brown
right.
voters in Dallas County to vote.
Hmm.
I don't know that that would have had an impact on the ultimate race in the primary. Probably not, because ultimately I don't know how many voters were turned away. But um, I could see something like that happening in places across the country where you have Republican Supreme Courts in various states,
Hmm.
Republican clerk of courts. I could see them playing games. I could also see the intimidation factor being brought into it, right? Like there's nothing stopping the White House from putting National Guard troops at the polls, from putting ICE agents at the polls to intimidate folks who don't look like me from voting.
Right.
And so that's another way. As far as like manually changing vote tallies and stuff, no, I don't subscribe to the idea that like people are behind the scenes like changing electronic votes. I don't that's what Republicans try to claim with Trump. I didn't believe it then. I don't believe it on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
Well, but I do believe that there is real voter suppression technique tactics that are going to be in play in 2026, and that could lead to um, cheating, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think hopefully they learned a lesson with the Dominion thing. That didn't work out too good for Fox
Yeah,
News. I mean, they had to pay a lot of money for,
that's
jumping on
true.
that Dominion thing. That was all right. This is something that's definitely true to your heart. Media takeover. The way they're just buying up
Yeah.
and it's scary, man. I used to love to turn on the news and be able to bounce around and get some fair reporting. Those days are just fewer and far between, which is why you're doing so well and everybody's appreciates your work as an independent journalist. Is this the way it's going to be going forward, do you believe? Is this the trend?
Um, Yes and no. I mean, I think I don't think I don't know that the Warner Brothers deal with Paramount is going to go through personally. I think there'll be a
Mhm.
lot of regulatory issues there before it ever gets to a final deal. I will also say anything that's done this time around can be quickly undone when you have a Democratic president. And the last thing these companies, and I would even send a quick warning to Republicans, is that the last thing these companies want is to be broken up or to be facing antitrust investigations and all of that. And that's what will happen under a Democratic president here. And so I could totally see this kind of being the end of the consolidation part of it. Like this Paramount deal could be the last one. Like I don't see the Ellisons tomorrow going and buying up MS Now, for example, or buying up the parent company to ABC, for example. That's not going to happen. A, it's illegal, and B, it's not going to happen because they know it's illegal, and they'll be broken up as quickly as they're consolidated.
One of the things I remind people that's really just doom and gloom on they just feel America is done, we're toast, we're sinking.
Yeah,
A lot of the stuff that Trump's done has been via executive order.
yeah.
Those things, you're an attorney, you know more about this than me, but they can be, turned around with a Democrat president pretty quick. Is that's the case, right?
Well, it's not even that. I mean, executive orders aren't law. So there's very
Right.
few, and I try to remind people this. There are very few things that Trump has actually done in the past year plus. Like he's created chaos and he's flooded
Hmm.
the zone. That is real, and he's uh, torn down institutions with his rhetoric and his threats. That is real. But when you talk about actual like legislative action, they passed one piece of marquee legislation, the Big Beautiful Bill. That's
Yeah.
it. No
Yeah.
other bill that's like a marquee piece of the president's agenda. When you talk about executive action, if you actually read all of his executive orders, there really isn't much there. Him saying things like, "Let's go remove DEI from the federal government." He can. People forget that the executive branch is like a company, right? Donald Trump, being the president, is the CEO of the company. Each cabinet secretary is a VP in that company. When you have a CEO take over a company, that CEO can really remodel the organization the way he or she wishes. this is kind of him doing it, right? He's remodeling the federal government through his vision. But that is a very actual, I mean, it doesn't have, it could easily be undone. Easily. I mean, and it will be undone. All of the
Hmm.
things he's slapping his name on, his name could easily be taken off, right? Like even
Right.
the Department of War, that will be the Department of Defense again, right? Like
Exactly.
all of this will easily be changed. So I wouldn't worry.
All right. So now you mentioned Department of War. That brings me right into the Iran situation. I'm a veteran, served the country from 84 to 92 in the Navy. So I know a little something about troop movements and deployments and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, I have a lot of concerns with this. I have a lot of concerns. I'm not seeing the administration come out and giving any kind of an end game,
Yeah.
time limit, none of that. Congress tried to do a little something with the War Powers Act, and it looks like the Republicans stopped that. What are your thoughts on this whole situation with Iran? Um, Obviously, it can't be politically good for Republicans, I
No.
wouldn't think. So give me your thoughts on that.
Well, I would question the same questions you have. What is
Yeah,
the day after plan here? Who are you going to leave in charge in Iran? Is it going to be a Venezuela 2.0 where you allow the Ayatollah's son to be the supreme leader who is just as radical, if not even more religiously radical than the Ayatollah was? In which case, it doesn't actually, you don't change any regime. Number two, how do you conduct regime change without boots on the ground? I don't know that because I don't historically, you can't conduct regime change through bombings in the air. You
right,
have
right.
to
You
have
can't.
boots on the ground. And if you put American boots on the ground, that would be like the death knell of the Trump presidency in the sense of like he will lose the House and the Senate pretty quickly. Number three, why now? Like
Hmm.
that's a big question that I have. Why bomb Iran now? To me, the most logical time to bomb Iran would have been in January during the protests, right? You want to actually help the popular uprising occur on its own. Okay, you go and bomb the institutions that are killing tens of thousands of protesters. But Trump didn't do that, and he kind of let them be slaughtered in the streets. And then 6 weeks later, we're now bombing Iran. To me, looks as though at least we're bombing because maybe Israel was going to strike first, right? Like I don't know. It's a very difficult situation to understand, but ultimately I don't think the administration has an end game here, and that should scare a lot of people.
Yeah, I agree. It's also a little similar to what happened in Venezuela with we're going to snatch the guy out of there, but we're going to leave the people, fend for yourself,
Yeah.
handle this yourself. And it's kind of the same playbook with, hey, we're taking out your leadership. But the thing is, I don't know if anybody is in Iran that's really come forward. I think there's one person, Prince somebody. I think Prince, I forgot what his name is, but I don't see any rallying call, like one person that people can gravitate to.
Yeah, Reza, the Shah's son, who's been living in
Yeah,
exile in the United States, but I mean, he doesn't have support within the country to take
right.
over. So it's a very difficult and precarious situation.
Yeah, big time. All right, we're almost done. And again, thanks so much for doing this.
Of
I'm
course.
going to let you out of here in just a second. I guess my last question, and then I'll let you get some closing thoughts. The other big fear, of voters on the left, and some moderates too, is will Donald Trump leave at the end of this term? He always floats these little troll comments out there on True Social and things like that.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion on that? And what do you think the recourse would be if he decides he wants to try to stay?
He will leave. Um,
That's good news.
yeah. I mean, he left in 2020, right? Like
Yeah,
and there he literally incited a violent insurrection to try to prevent him from leaving office, and he still left. He
yeah,
will leave. Power will transition. I think if he doesn't leave, which is not a likely scenario, but it is a scenario. If he tries not to leave, the recourse is you would have to get the military to turn on the federal government. I mean that's the
exactly.
right. That's the recourse. Now, but that's a scenario I don't even want to even think about
Oh,
because
it's even
that
scary to go there. Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's like good luck. That's like from a movie. But no, I think he will leave. And to me, I mean, the real question is how soon is he leaving? I don't know what his health is like, right? Like his
that's
health is
true.
like it's faltering a bit. He also doesn't really seem too happy to be president lately. I don't know. I watched his press conferences on the campaign trail, and then back in January of last year, and now, and he's just like he's aged a ton over the past
Uh-uh,
year. He
uh-uh.
he doesn't look as happy or as energized often when he's giving these press conferences. So I don't even know how much more he can take, as in how much more his health can take. I don't know how much more he wants to be president. So I
Mhm.
definitely think he'll leave in what, 3 years? Yeah.
Look, there's a clear difference in his energy level for
Yeah,
sure. And there's all those other little symptoms too, like the droopy mouth and the on his neck and his hands. So there's some medical issues for sure. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know exactly what's
yeah,
wrong with him, but there's some things wrong with him. But I've looked at some of his video and campaigns, like you were saying, just from a year or two ago, and he's a different person as far as energy
completely
levels.
different person. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely different person.
Aaron, you're the man. I appreciate you doing this so much, man. I know you're so busy, so I'm very grateful you had the time to do this. In closing thoughts, give me some closing thoughts. Where can people follow you on all your socials and Substack, and give some
Yeah.
closing thoughts for the listeners.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and you guys go check out Brad. He's doing great work. Make sure to follow him. That's
Thank
my
you.
plug and my closing thought to you. As far as myself, just go on the Parnas perspective, aaronparnas.substack.com. That's my main platform, and that's where I'll be.
Thank you so much, man. Let's be in touch. Get you to come back on the show at some point.
Anytime, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Aaron. Take care.
Take care.
All right.